Plateau State, situated in north-central Nigeria, houses about 56 ethnic groups spread across 17 local government areas of the state. This documentary will take you through the captivating world of the Mumpun people. The Mumpun people have a few different assumptions of their origins and migrations. Some believe that the Mumpun are indigenous to the Plateau region and have always been there, while others believe that the Mumpun came from Borno and migrated to their present location.
Mumpun history and origin are as simple and also complex as is the history and origin of many ethnic groups in Plateau State. Their traditions of origin, their cultures, their political cultures, economic cultures, and so on. So many of them have similar historical narratives about their origin and history. For the Mumpun, what you read in the books and what you collect from people, all the villages in Mumpun, and all that they say to me is that Mumpun people came from Borno, but that it is not clear whether they came together as Mumpun people, because if you meet the different clans, then they will say they came from Borno and then migrated through various places in Plateau and eventually came to their present location. So the earliest, one way to know the origin of a Mumpun person of my own generation is to say, what is your Nyam? Nyam is something that if people sneeze or during farming or when they succeed in war or hunting, they shout. My own Nyam is Jepkul.
Yak sukase yel Mumpun munangar peme yel Mumpun kedem amkat ngumut kop amkat ngudifir amkat ngujelbang amkat ngundai amkat ngutambes kul munangar peme yel en kulma dingi mo pet mo kulna kanen mo san mo en gutong mo sam kok dang met mo gagu mo san mo jiblit to aw mo jeb kul mo tonga yelgon mo masham dim ne mo pet mo difri mo tonga yilom put mangun Majita town farm Ankuma del Shami Yel Mumpun en tambesmo motonga shiblang maji man balang na awul kuna feri mun ku balang shibang mun ku balang kalet mun ku balang mudat yel besmo kam el dim tapshin katong pangsina syam ang lildum tapsin arneleng to mukatnen balang na mo bem to ding ne tambes mo motong am bem ne moji syam il Mumpun maktade il bless mo mut kop mo put ay il bless mo mun ke pak mut ko mo del shamsin jin nen dai mo tonga deka pe mo peta dai man ka tong pianya ta del la godas ar del ka kombon be ba ar ka kombon mo nen dai no sarsen be nen dai mo to pak tong di sham amo nyam nengang
anu yang sak ni kayen da yel fun Yan pun ada mana pension ni yang pension local government. Ya sana pension kan ke yang ke traditional council join one ke local district na sarkar ma no Lankan district na yang puno asal district ni ana Lankan ama in district ni mun ke Lankan no war darbi asabi jibdi abordi kabudi kejin comment to say comment to the chief dog when we gana mukun chief dog person and school mukun then yung mukun sino ka template naman dong so war Lankan ate mishko me dese tema ke dikar ko des ko me makede kena te bidina ene mi kene dong riang kaka yo pun ana mon ko kedun petna mon gamun so mon ko te jing Kuat, kemish kuat. Kemudian tuan pret, tuan mana pedang ini berat, dan aku mula di napin. Kemishin semua pun, bangun yang pun mata, keburuman dengan tuan kemaji, kemajang es, anrek kemudian napin.
The Mumpun people have a rich culture and history that spans back to hundreds of years. The Mumpun have various festivals that have existed before the colonial era.
Me forma moyo sang pang mopeta Sahara tai mo sham me duguri moyo me duguri mo che sham jel bang mudu moyo jel bang mudu bamakabo Ema tonga bor, pama pianville, pakma, masakang ampang.
Origin from the Middle East, the Sahara, the Garden of Eden, and so on. Historians and scholars call this Hamitic hypothesis. By Hamitic hypothesis is meant that there was a time that when Europeans came, they said all the civilizations and cultures of Africans came from the Hamites. And the Hamites are supposed to be the black descendants of Ham, the son of Shem, who was cursed. So when people are saying that this is where they come from, they don't know the significance and the implication of that claim. And then Abdullah Smith, a historian who was in ABU, says the origin of these claims is Judeo-Christian and Islamic traditions. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all believe that God created only Adam and Eve, and that all of us descended from them. So any Christian will tell you that there is no other way of explaining their origin other than to trace it to the Middle East, because they want to align it with their faith. Jews want to align with their faith. Muslims want to align it with their faith. But does it make sense that we all came from the Middle East? Now, for historians, we say that it doesn't make real sense because, one, culturally and physically, we look different from the Arabs. Our languages are different, our cultures are different, our what they call physical anthropology, the way we look are different. And then how comes that if you migrated from the Middle East, I mean, the story would show you that we came through this and that, rather than people making guesswork. So all the claims people are making is guesswork. So based on linguistic evidence, physical anthropology, cultural anthropology, and other evidences, you know that it doesn't make sense for you to say that all people came from the Middle East. And some Mopun people, because majority are Christians and a few are Muslims, it is convenient for them to use that. And so it is not very true that all of us came from the Middle East. Now, another aspect of it, those that say we came from Borno, that again, we have to subject it to critical analysis. Yes, migration from Borno is not impossible because Kanuri left Borno and went to Lafia in the 19th century. So it's possible that we came from Borno. But if you look at the traditions of origins of most of the people, that their language is called Chadic in Plateau State, from Mushere, Moravul, Mupun, Ngas, Gomai, down to Kwanpan, all of them say they came from Borno. Does it make sense that all of us migrated from Borno like that? So how comes we didn't migrate as a group? How comes that we didn't know ourselves in Borno and so on? But that is one level of analysis. If you ask them, okay, from Borno, which places did you follow? So some will tell you they came through Bauchi, but there are many places that before Bauchi. Some say they came through Tafawa Balewa, some say they came through Taraba. The name Bauchi, Taraba, and so on did not exist in those very long periods. The name Bauchi came with Yakubu Bauchi in the 19th century during the jihad. So he said we came through Bauchi, but the name Bauchi did not exist. Taraba did not exist. So how comes you can't remember those places, but every other place in Plateau they remember? So the issue is, could all the ethnic groups in Plateau, or the majority of the ethnic groups in Plateau, and could Mopun among them have all migrated from Borno? The answer is speculative. And the reason is that, yes, at different points in time, the Kanuri Empire, particularly under Idris Aluma, they persecuted minorities, the Ngizim, the Kotoko, the Bolewa, and so on. So some of them scattered. But by then they had formed ethnic identities. They were called Ngizim, they were called Bolewa, they were called Kotoko. So when you left Borno, what were you called? Because those ethnic groups had been formed before Idris Aluma scattered them. Now, you look at the other versions that say they came from within Plateau. That is more plausible, because if you ask the Jepkul from the Ron or the Pokos area, who led you to Mupunland, they will tell you the name is the Kupkul. From Jelbang, who led you to Kagu, they will tell you the name. From Jelbang, who led you to Jipari, to Langtang, they will tell you the name. From Tambes, who led you to Gebang, they will tell you the name.
The Warushin, Amon Message, and I tell them Tasa. Wherever Uji, Bangu, Okindimo, Bonmo, Okopna, he didn't think so, sat moving with Tamudi, and come a shaman basin. I will put on Sisu. Copper ship, no? Moja Bon, amon mishin pe mo tong panya masham tong po yen kane bo to benin nan tu sa wasa ne bo sa ka shin pe una lu ga del pe ko yaw ko mishin pe jir mo chin an ka das ko me yo mo ka to yelpil yo mana kecir les ko mi get mo yo taba man di ka tasad ma ka dan man kos yo di yo mana kecir me
when they were interviewing the indigenous people after the conquest, nobody mentioned that they came from Borno. So the story from Borno started becoming popular from 1916. Then 1934, when MS published his Gazetteer and said that all of them came from Borno. So after that, everybody came from Borno. So what historians are saying is that it is possible that some people came from Borno, but they couldn't have been the sole reason of factors for the formation of ethnic groups in Plateau, including Mupun. That even if people came from Borno, they met indigenous or what we call autochthonous people in this place. And these are the people that are associated with the Nok culture. If you go to the museum, you will see the Nok tools. Many of them look like Mupun, these things. They look like Moaville things, they look like Gomai things. So what is possible is that various peoples, the Nok culture peoples, and then some people who say they are autochthonous. If you go to the Dares Kalang, the Kogureng clan in Kerang, for example, Dares in Ron, Kogureng clan, and some Gomai clans that say they originated from within the area. The Kofiar group that say they originated from somewhere around Shandam. So there are groups that say they never came from anywhere at all, that they were created in their place. So when you look at that story together with the Nok culture, which confirms their story, and then you look at the origin from Borno, then you are left with no conclusion than to say that the Plateau people, including Mupun people, were formed from the migration of various groups that met with an already established population to form what they are today. But no whole-scale migration took place from Borno to form Mupun people. No whole-scale migration from Borno formed Moravul people. No whole-scale migration from Borno formed Gomai people. I know Gomai people, they do the Dorok and so on. They are Chadic in culture, but Jukun, they are Chadic in history and language, but Jukun in culture. So this is what historians are saying. So the origin from Borno is only part of the story. It is not all of it. Yes, people would have migrated from Borno. We cannot say it is completely false, but we cannot say migrants from Borno 100% form Mupun people. That is not possible. That is historically incorrect. Origin from Borno was concocted in 1916. There were people in this area that are part of the Nok culture, including Mupun people, that were part of the Nok culture. And Mupun people are one of the examples of a melting pot in Plateau. And for me, it is a wonderful thing that coming from different locations, we're able to unite ourselves to form one ethnic group as brothers and sisters. And wherever we came from, however we were formed, the fact is that we are here together. We have that Mupun identity, and that should be the way forward.
The Mupun people are mostly farmers, growing crops such as granules, millet, maize, and vegetable, among others.
Langkang is groundnut in Ngas language. So Ngas people used to come to that area to get groundnuts. You know, Mupun people have this claim that they bless people. We call Ngas bless. So we believe that they had no food, and because they had no land to plant their crops, so they used to come to that area and get groundnuts. So they now call the place Langkang. Now, when the colonialists came, the British colonial powers came, they came through Pangshin, and they were told that there is a place called Langkang. And so they first came to Asa, and then when they had a battle with Asa and killed many people, arrested the chief and took him to Bauchi, castrated him, and unfortunately he died later. And then when the people of Longdreng, that we now call Langkang, heard of what happened at Asa, they decided that they would not put up any resistance, and so they negotiated with the British, and they took some domestic animals to Asa. Longdreng means Dreng Long, you know, so they had to carry the animals by force to Asa, so they drank the Long, so they call the place Longdreng. And they said to the British that we don't want to fight. And when they went to Jiblik, also there was no fight. They went to Butong, there was no fight. They went to Kagu people put up resistance, there was heavy fighting and many people died. In other villages there was no fighting. So when they were doing what was called the indirect rule system, they now said that Langkang was part of Ngas territory, so they classified us as Hill and Ngas, and so they now said we are part of the Ngas, and then we will be part of what they call the Ngas Federation. So they created native administration, and then created Langkang district in 1934 and made Langkang the headquarters. But before then, they had created Langkang village with Fangbring as the village head. So when Langkang district was created, eventually Langkang now became the headquarters, and so they recognize Langkang, Asa, Jiblik, Kagu, Abordis, and Jing. These are the traditional villages that the colonial powers recognize. And that's why when Magda says it has 8 villages, people ask, how did they become villages? But for the sake of our unity, there's no reason for debate in that respect. But the British created 6 villages. I documented it in my master's degree. Langkang became our headquarters, but we are not alone as Mopun people in this. In all other places in Nigeria where the British went, they were creating central administration. They will see people that spoke the same language, have the same culture, then they will say, we will unify them under one chief. So it was a process of political centralization. They went to chief, centralized all of them into one, went to all the other places, and then created. So for each of them, they created a district, created a native court, created a scribe and small native administration, and then that was how they did it.
The Mopun people have a fascinating history and culture that continues to thrive and evolve today. Their language, festivals, cultures, and traditions are unique components of their identity, and they remain proud of their heritage.
Our cultural practices, starting from birth rites to circumcision rites to initiation, Pon, which we now use for Vwang, and then marriage, death and burial. So these are things that Mopun people had established a common pattern for. Anytime a child was born, there were rules. The mother must stay indoors in her hut for 7 days, and if she cannot come out through like this normal gate, but they will create an opening for her through what they call those stone walls that join two huts. Yeah, so they'll create an opening. That was the only way she could go out. But it's after the 7th day that she will be allowed to go out through the main door, and then the child will be named, and so on. Then when the child reaches maybe 4, 5, or 6, 7 years, the children will be circumcised. When they are healed, at another stage, they will go through initiation. This was a kind of transition from childhood to adulthood. If one was not initiated, you will be regarded as a woman. The initiation, the Vuang that we now use, but it's called Pun in the Mupun language. So what the experience they go through is a training, it's a Spartan training in courage, endurance, patience, manliness, and defense. So you learn these things, you learn hunting, you learn how to protect the village, because if you went through it, you are going to be the prospective warriors to defend the village against future attacks. And then when you grow older still, you got married, and the processes are there. Either you do matkwam. Matkwam is friendship and courtship. It takes long. Only rich people were able to do that, because once you initiate the process by either giving a lock of food to the mother or some kind of discussion that said, okay, can she allow some matfen? I have engaged this small girl for my son. Then every year, every season, you supply them with food ingredients, you supply them with mahogany oil, supply them with whatever was cloth at that time, until you were old enough to marry. But those that were not rich enough, they will do this abduction type yamat.
Arnik Modes. Pamoyaya, rep Mayawa. Kalat lang kita namin la rep. Diam sa film mo. Manangget war. Umawaya kayo ma. Wayak ama. Matadar. Azot mamang din na tok mo sit. Ako for ay to wapasan mo to kelen wara wal badian wa managa dunga. Warma wa kele yida tanan kuwar dembel nis. Kala la repe wa mandier to kama kuwara to sibuga makil wa pezer ko.
Then the third type was if widow inheritance, and in that case a relation died, and then the elders will sit down and say, now that Luwen, that's how they describe it. When a husband dies, they say Luwen, and they will ask, of these people in the family, whom are you comfortable with? Anyone she chooses. They will perform the normal rites, and then she becomes the person's wife. But sometimes she might say, no, I don't want anybody in the family, and she'll be allowed to go. And then eventually you grow up and you die. When somebody dies, of course, the burial depends on one's status and age. For very young people, children, it was a very painful thing because they were caught in their prime, and so it is usually thought that maybe evil spirits or wicked people had killed the person, so that's why it is painful. But if it's an elderly person, someone who is in his 90s, 100s, they look at it as transition. It was not death, he had just joined the ancestors. And so that person, the burial of that person was organized in a different way. And if he was rich, after the first burial, there will be a second burial, including the killing of dwarf cattle and so on. If he was a chief, then the person that will inherit him will perform the burial. He will kill the burial goat, and then he will be made the chief to succeed.
Join us to explore the Mumpun heritage as we journey through the culture and traditions of the people, discovering the beauty and richness of this unique region.
I think, in my opinion, Mumpun will have one of the richest array of cultural dances, and they vary from village to village. When we were growing up, the villages seem to have had some strengths and areas of specialization. So, but now almost all the villages are just doing what they can do. The most important traditional dance in the past was the horn dance fair, and it was purely a dance of the males, and it could be used to celebrate a death or a burial of an important person. It could be used to celebrate victory in war. It could be used to celebrate hunting successes and other things. And it could, yeah. Then we have Kwarak. Kwarak and Nare or Yang are both from cornstalk, but Kwarak is from the ones that are bigger than the Yang or Nare. So the tinier stalks are used for Nare, and then the bigger ones are used for Kwarak. So Kwarak is very popular with Sun, Tokbet or Sambay, or Selek in Kagu, Gutong. Traditionally, they were the leaders in the Kwarak dance, but I think they have declined, but they are picking up again. And then Datut in the Asa Langkang area. Then we have the ancestral Kokmbone from the Asa area, Asa Langkang area. The others, we have Kokjirap, that's for the females. It doesn't, when the name is Kokjirap, that means maidens dance, but it's actually not just maidens. Even older women were part of it. And then we have Kokcher. There is chair mostly by women too. Then there is Tam. Tam is mostly by men, and most of these are like people are just speaking in tongues. If you don't know the words to use at the appropriate time, you might cry. I mean, I will witness it when we were growing up. So only people who are verbally strong will know the appropriate use, because sometimes it is ad hominem, it is abusive, sometimes it is praising you. So when you are standing by somebody, you are exchanging those words with him, but sometimes you are just singing out. Then eventually we now have Kokpo, this common village ground dance that everybody can participate, and the ones that we use drums and so on at marriage ceremonies and in the church and so on. So we have varieties of dances, and that makes life very, very sweet. Now, what they used to use those dances for was, they use it for what we call intergroup relations. The Kwarak group from Gutong, for example, can go to Langkang or Abor, spend 1 week dancing, entertaining them, and the villagers will receive them, host them in their houses. They will have what they call share cook. So if we come, you will now say, you are my share cook, then I will be staying in your house. You will be feeding me, apart from what will be given to us, the food that will be brought at the arena. And then When they did that this year, the following year, a dance group from Abor, maybe it is whatever group they have, they will also come to Butong, spend 1 week. Sometimes it is they go to Moroful, sometimes they go to the neighboring villages. And so it cements good relationships with people. And through that process, people establish long-term relationships. Sometimes in the process, people get married. The best dancers, when they are dancing, you see what is called matungwang. Now you will see now even men are doing matungwang, and it's not supposed to be like that. It's the females that stand behind the person that they think is their most admired dancer, performer, and eventually some may end up in marriages. Yeah, again, like the dances, we have varieties of dishes because our environment allows for the production of various varieties of crops. We are mainly a cereal people. Our crops are mainly grains, but that's not all. So in the past, they used to make food from millet, guamkas, because this corn, maize, became very popular very recently. Or they could make food from Guinea corn, that was guamshuanan. Yeah. So then the main one was acha kusuk. I think in almost all the villages they used to cultivate kusuk, and it was the best food that if you visited somebody they could prepare for you. If they chat gom kusuk for you, then you know that is a friend indeed. So we have that one, and we also had varieties of root crops. Most of them came from the wild. We had traditional yams, which we call duri, but because of the very close nature of the name with another Hausa word, people are avoiding it, and people are now saying boar. Boar is the wild one from the bush, but they could bring it from the bush, tame it, and so you had boar or duri like kumjan, and various other varieties. Then they had this tituen. It's a fruit tree and it grows from the ground, but it fruits up. I see it only in Jos. So we had it too, and they also had another variety of yam called barkap. It can pass for yellow yam, but actually it's not yellow yam. It is yellow, but it's like wild. It's fairly sour like that. So the different villages had that, and then groundnuts. They were cultivating groundnuts too, bambara nuts, gargak. Then there's another variety called nuvu. It's another semi-root crop. So we had all these varieties, and eventually the maize came and became popular with the use of chemical fertilizers. Before then, it was not popular because if you planted it without manure, the harvest, the yield was very low. Yeah, but now it has become the main crop, and the traditional ones are disappearing because now, when I was growing up and up till now, if you go to the village, it's guamshua in the morning, guamshua in the afternoon, guamshua in the evening. Women are lazy at pounding the acha because it peels their hands and it's tough. I think guamkas and shuanan are no longer very popular now. They are disappearing as if they were not our traditional foods. Then we had soups, and the most known soup was poklen. I don't know the name in English. Then we had pokam, and then we also had vegetable soups. We used to call them pokompe, or we call them poktlua. Those ones they collected various types of vegetables, and then mixed them and made soup out of them, including germen and so on that people can make with acha and so on. So we have various varieties of foods. We are told our dead ancestors, but they visited once a while. Every year there's a celebration for them. You cook beans, cook meat, and go and give them. And some of the Njia are even said to be women. And when they were beating the drums, you will hear the voice of the Matnji. And then the male ones too. So the Matnji would be women who grew up to maturity. They were respected women in their society. So when they died, they become ancestors. But the ones that were very wicked, those ones died and became evil spirits shown according to the belief. So the masquerades like the one in Langkang area, I think is not very common across Mupun. But what unified, what was common everywhere was the Nji. From my own perspective, I will say Mupun people are hardworking. And I say that with all sense of responsibility. Everywhere I've met Mupun people at work, they distinguish themselves. If you give Mupun person work, and that is the person's job description, and it is based on that person's capability, he will do it for you like between himself, and he takes it as if he's working for God. So everywhere you place them, you will see that they are successful, and that success is because they are hardworking, they are disciplined, and so on. But I believe this too is because of the nature of how we were brought up. I don't know whether your own generation is getting that kind of training. When we were growing up, every elderly man and woman, even those boys that were older than you learn to respect them and take instructions from them. The person must not be your father to discipline and correct you. The person must not be your father for you to help. If you see an elderly person coming with a pot of water, woman or male, you will collect it and escort them to their house. Carrying crops from the farm or even grass, you collected it and escorted them to their house. They did not need to be your parents. So those of us that grew up in that culture, we have this, that you must respect any person that is ahead of you. You must obey the person that is ahead of you. And if you have work to do, you must do it to the best of your ability.